Okay, so example number one is Mo's site. Mo is a student from last semester, and they did a really nice job on this site. And I want you to pay attention um, to the findability of this site. So we just looked at the landing page. Actually, we can go back. Okay, actually, that's not the actual landing page. I think this is the landing page. There we go. So this is the landing page. I can go to her work, and now that I'm on kind of the main site, um, yeah, watch for how do I know where I am on the site when I'm navigating through this. So what page am I on right now, and how do you know that? Partly just by looking at, you know, this, right? There's seems to be some contact information. Um, how about now? What page am I on? It's pretty self-evident by looking at it, right? Um, Same with this, but the main thing that helps us with this, and it's very simple but very important, is that when I click on the resume page, it it uh, it highlights that I'm on the resume page by with these two vertical violet lines, right? Same with the work page now. So that's one very simple way to do it. Also, it's helpful even when I'm in the process of, okay, do I want to select the resume or contact? It also highlights the whole box. The whole box turns a violet color. Um, and so that's also helpful, even helping me focus on where do I want to go and helps me know, okay, oh, this is the resume page. So this is part of, this is like really um, thoughtful design that thinks about that whole thing of don't make me think. I just know that this is what it is. It's a little assist like that that can make a big difference in terms of how effective your website is. Let's look at an example where the findability is not so great. So with this, um, you know, very different. There's no kind of highlighting action. But also when I click on, like, say, the specials page, um, oh, see, I didn't even know it changed. I thought I think that's where maybe the page I was already on. Let's go back to products. It's very slow. Oh, I think I have to, see, I also thought I could click on this, but apparently you have to click on the actual drop down item. Okay. So there's nothing showing me up here that now I'm looking at the products. Um, and with the number of drop down items um, here, it's all the more important that you know what is the main category that I'm looking at, so that you're not doing a lot of repeating of looking at um, sites, especially because there might be a lot of overlap even between like service and products. So that's an example of really poor findability. Let's go back to looking at Kaylee's site. Um, so same here as with Mo's site. When I click on resume, it actually just turns bold, and I really like that, just because it clearly just stands out, but it's still very minimalist design. Um, so Kaylee did a great job with that. Has a very clean look to it, and I also like how she. Side note, um, I like how she made these look like it's almost like a gallery. So she individually created all of these um, items, which may look more complex if you're not used to doing design work, but you can actually do something. Um, you could recreate this using just like Microsoft PowerPoint or Word if you wanted to by using the remove background feature and then just finding blocks of color that you can download even off the internet, cropping them, you know. So there's a lot that you can do if you have kind of if you just take the time to be creative and visualize what you want to do. So in terms of let's look at findability. If I switch to here, um, and here. And let's also think about the craft design principles. So if you remember this Z formation, if we know that we read like this, we start at the left and then we kind of move down this way. How does Kaylee's kind of perform in terms of that design? If I usually start up here, then I go here. Okay, I do eventually read it, and I go here. Kind of makes sense, although I'm also thinking about the findability here. So if I click on, let's say I want to look at her UX and UI examples, it jumps down to the location of where these items are, but it also brings up in the same location as the photography. And if we also tend to read like this and we start kind of on the left, I might kind of get hooked here without knowing what the category is. So thinking about the order of how we do this, it might make more sense to have this over here so that I know, okay, this is what I'm looking at, before I actually start to look at the images. Now, maybe Kaylee had a reason for doing that, and it all has to do with what does she want her reader to do. So I don't want to jump to a conclusion to say, oh, it would have been better if she had it over here. There could be a reason for that, right? So in other words, you want to think about, when you think about that Z formation, you really have to imagine, like, okay, what do I want them to see first? What do I want them to end with? In that example from the Apple page, it made sense that you got the title, then you got the image of the coffee cup, and then you got the actual paragraph, the content that they ended with. And it makes sense that you'd almost want to see the image before you got to that paragraph, right? But that's going to be a little bit different for every situation. The thing that I might suggest, though, with this is that maybe there should be a little bit more white space between the UX, UI, and photography so that when you jump to photography, you only kind of focus on photography versus, because when I actually clicked on photography, the thing on top is actually not her photography section, it's her UX, UI stuff. So these are minor kind of changes that, you kind of have to go back to that, the list of craft principles and use all of these to your benefit. Ask, how can I use each of these to make it even better? So in this case, I would suggest using the proximity feature of adding some white space to kind of help you focus on just one thing at a time. Okay. Subtle changes. And of course, we know that Kaylee's will probably grow, which would change the dynamics there as well. Okay, so those are some examples. I really encourage you to kind of, even keep track. If you have a place to keep track of websites that you want to use as models, that can be really, really helpful. So even if you just create like a Word document of examples, or if you've got, like your bookmarks here, you can add a subfolder, add folder, model sites, right? I could add them here and have them as, or even a separate folder here for design. So you can really make your professional portfolio site stand out if you spend some time just looking at model sites and thinking about how you can make your site unique. So, and part of that is just making a space to gather your model examples. So think about that and start doing that. Start doing it now. So this last thing that I want us to do is for you. So you've done your personal goals for this class and thinking about what skills do I want to develop during this time. The other thing that I want you to do, I kind of mentioned this a little bit before, but is to develop a design philosophy. Now, that sounds a little bit intimidating, and but really it's 2 to 3 sentences. But 2 to 3 sentences doesn't mean that it shouldn't also have um, a lot of thought and kind of complexity behind it, because it still is a philosophy, right? Um, and so this is a little bit. I think it can be more challenging to kind of synthesize a more complex approach into a couple sentences. Um, but basically, your design philosophy should incorporate your views on web standards, inclusive web design, accessibility, and usability. So if you're still fuzzy about what those mean, you may want to just kind of um, skim through the past slides on these, and I would recommend doing that just so you have it clear in your mind, because that's one of the things that you're going to get from this class is your ability to understand not just how to, for those of you who may be more focused on writing, you now have this new kind of thing in your toolbox which says, like, I know how to be rhetorically effective, but I understand what that means in terms of accessibility and how to even code properly in a way that will actually make it accessible to multiple audiences. So, and keep in mind too, as you write this, that there are people who they're not going to know what web standards are or what we mean by accessibility or usability. So you have to kind of break these down into language that others will understand. So you have to kind of put on what we call like beginner's mind, which means what would these concepts look like with fresh eyes. So remember when you didn't understand what they were, how would you explain this to a friend? How would you explain this to an aunt or something? So once you've uh, written this, basically I want you to update your index.html file and then upload it to NetFiles. Make sure you click the little box that says to override the existing file. And if you want an example, a different Kaylee from last semester has a very like simple looking personal course website. So this is basically what it should start to look like. So when it says using appropriate markup, it's basically just saying, this is bold, this is bold, this is bold. So you should, I believe, have all of these up by now, because on Monday you're prompted to create your goals. So work on updating this so that you have all of these, and again, take some time to write this in a way that does justice to the complex concepts of usability, even findability, like all the things that we've been talking about so far. And you might in that also need to describe the relationship between like knowing good solid visual design and how that relates to accessibility, like we've been talking about. Um, so that is it for now. This is due Wednesday, February 6th. I'm still in the process of updating the schedule. One of the things that we're going to have coming up is actually going to be an interview with a couple of more experienced professional writer and a user experience individuals. So that'll be a really hopefully cool experience for you. So anyway, I hope everyone stays safe out there. Send me a direct message in Slack if you have any questions. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you on Monday when the weather should be better. So, all right, take care.